Shalom. Look at all these holy brothers and sisters here. It's a new week and a new semester, and I really appreciate y'all taking time because, gosh, I know we're all really busy. I feel really, really humbled to be here. I don't like to be speaking after this amazing music and this amazing woman. To be speaking after all of these amazing speakers who have been talking this year in this space about hospitality. So thank you. You may not know this, but I'm of the Jewish faith. So in my tradition, the essence of hospitality, the pinnacle of hospitality is, comes at, in fact, the very end of the meal. It comes in many ways in what we think is kind of the opposite end and something that's often overlooked. It's escorting people out after they leave you. In fact, the tradition teaches that if you don't escort someone out on their way, it's as if you have spilled their blood. Now, I always thought that was rather hyperbolic. I hoped. Until I had the experience where hospitality gave me life and saved my life. And I want to tell you about that. But first, I need to tell you a little bit about my framework about how I understand hospitality. So that goes all the way back to the beginning. It goes all the way back to the book of Genesis. And it goes back to the cycle of stories of Abraham and Sarah, the first two monotheists. So there's Abe sitting in front of Petach HaOhel at the opening of the tent, meditating, communing with the Holy One, having this great conversation with God, being completely in the moment, being completely manifest, being completely in tune with everything going on around him. He's having a great moment. And all of a sudden, these three strangers show up. And Abe could very well have just simply closed his eyes and continued to sit maybe in the half lotus. Who knows? But he didn't. He did quite the opposite, in fact. Abraham got up, turned his back, as it were, on the Holy One, and went and greeted these three strangers who were dusty and tired and hungry and knew no one. So he brought them into their home, into their tent, washed their feet for them, set them down under a tree, ran off. Sarah starts baking some, what must be delicious pita. And Abe runs off to start making a barbecue and feeds these guests and sits with them and eats with them. And at the very end, walks them out and escorts them on their way. And I feel like those of us who have a practice of hospitality, of welcoming guests into our home, I mean, we know what a schlepp it is. We all have long weeks at the end of the long week. For us, it's Friday night, it's Erev Shabbat, it's the beginning of Shabbat. So it's the end of a very long week. It's always the end of a very long week. It's always a long week. We're always doing so much great stuff. Thank God my cup runneth over. We've run out. Both of us have planned what on earth are we going to make this week, and we've run out, and we've got food, and it's taken Wednesday night and Thursday night. We're preparing, and we're cooking on Friday. We're getting everything together. It's great, and folks come, and we have a great time, and we sing, and we share words from the tradition, and we share time together, and we share food together, and we share our lives, and we share our aspirations, and we share our fears. And when it's all done, we're ready to collapse. But it's at that moment when we need to get up and put our last foot and our best foot and our most important foot forward and walk with our guests through the front door and take them out on their way. So how hospitality saved my life. I could actually tell this story There's at least 3 important stories with at least 3 important groups of people, one of which is the most important person to have saved my life and to continue to save my life. My sweetheart. But I won't put you on the spot. Another one is 2 very dear friends, Aaron Alexander and Penina Padwal. And I won't be talking about them, but I do want to honor both of them. So I want to tell a story of 2 very dear friends, both also rabbis, Rachel and Rick. So here's the story. My life, as I knew it, had just ended. Everything was in shatters. The vase of aspirations, the vase of dreams, of hopes, my first marriage, my first career, all shattered. I was feeling alone, I was feeling helpless and hopeless, and I was feeling worthless. And I knew that I needed to somehow find a way to move forward. I needed to figure out what I was going to do. So I took a plane back to Los Angeles, City of Angels. I took a plane back to Los Angeles and to apply for a job at the high school where I worked. And on the way, the one thing I had left, thank God, was my health. Except on the way, my ear ruptured. And it just felt like, nedach, of course. I got there, Rick and Rachel had said they'd be happy to host me a couple days while I was applying for a job. Well, it turned from a couple of days into a couple of weeks. I had to lay on one side as things drained. I don't need to get into that. And instead of saying, can't you just find some other place to be? Or sure, we'll have you, but we have kids, we have jobs, we're moving also across the country. We have a lot of things we have to do. And they did, very rightfully. They took me into their home. They fed me. They gave me their children to play with, to take my mind, put my minds totally on something else. Beautiful, beautiful children. They invited me, they had me for their Shabbat table. They shared their life with me. And in a couple days, I felt a little bit better. I found an ENT. A couple days later, I went. I found an apartment. A couple days later, I got hired back at the high school I used to teach at. And I was finally starting to head out on my way. What Rick and Rachel did was they escorted me out of the life I had been living. And it was that moment when everything was in shatters, when everything felt dark and cold and lonely, when they walked with me and they gave me a sense of purpose and a sense of value. They reminded me of the value of our actions and of the ultimate value of the divine within each of us. They taught me that I was not alone as I was walking on this journey. So where does this all come from? Where does this whole tradition all come from? It comes from the Great Commandment, the mitzvah found in the book of Leviticus. You shall love your fellow as you love yourself. And it has the power to save lives, to transform societies and communities, and to transform our families and to direct us towards where we're going. And how do we do this great thing? This is the question that I think all of our faiths, and certainly mine, likes to ask. This is a great principle. Great. Very nice. Thank you. How do I do it? What are the practical details? Give me some pragmatics as to how to live this in my life. So we know a couple. One of the ways we show love for those around us, we comfort mourners. We celebrate at weddings. We bring in strangers, we bring in widows, we bring those who are most lonely and most broken and at the hardest places and are not always the easiest guests. I was not at my best when I was with Rick and Rachel, and they were just so loving. When they were not the easiest guests, those are the folks we need to bring into our homes the most. And above and beyond all of these, the pinnacle of all of these, is escorting people on their way out. So at the very beginning, I shared with you my framework for this holy way of living, this holy mitzvah. That Abe and Sarah, who taught us that greater than the love of sitting and piously being with God, greater than that is the love we show strangers. And greater still is escorting people on their way out as things break. And we all are broken. And sometimes things are breaking harder, and sometimes we're feeling darker and more alone. So to know that we each and every day and each and every week have an opportunity to escort those around us on our journey. Thank you.